tables and head that way. Real quick, I want to introduce myself since I've already been walking at you this morning before your coffee, probably. Sorry. I'm Tanya Rickles. I'm actually the president of the Kansas and ASW chapter, and I also teach here at Washburn University, and actually place our ASW students. Shout out to the ASW students out there this morning. And we're going to do some other recognition real quick, but so I place them in their placements and I teach classes. My favorite class to teach is human sexuality. So, yeah, right. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to make sure that we recognize all of our sponsors. And I am of age now where I have to do the big so I'd like to recognize, and everybody can do a really quick wave, because we are celebrating 50 years ago the NASW Kansas chapter was formed. So it is really, really exciting to have our sponsors here to celebrate with us and have all of you here with us. I've gotten really lucky in different positions with NASW and Washburn where I've gotten to speak the last several years at this, and it is humbling to see all of you out there and to know the amazing work that you're getting ready to do, and those who are already out in the field and doing some pretty amazing things. I wish there was a year that every year I'm like, we need social workers more than ever, but I just keep saying it because it's true. So our sponsors this year is KBC is over there, waving. DECA is over there, I think I saw. All right, there you go. Yeah, shout out. Cornerstones of Care. There you go. And we've got Kansas DCF. They might have been out front. Out front. So they're out front, so make sure to visit them. Vallejo Behavioral Health. There's Vallejo. Family Service and Guidance Center. And we have Stormont Vale Care Source. There you go. I think I've got them all. Unless anybody that I missed. So honestly, without the sponsorship, and I want to do a small plug, if anybody can wait, we also have a Kansas Council of Social Work Education, and so those are educators from across the state that get together, and we all talk about how to make sure you have the best education that you can get here in Kansas. So without that, we would not be able to do so many of these things and bring everybody together and try to feed you and provide you some coffee and things like that. So they are very, very helpful. That's why I want to make sure to also mention the raffle. The raffle is actually an opportunity for you to be able to visit the vendors, our sponsors, see what they're offering. In addition, as you're going around, make sure they're stamping. I think we gave them little stickers. Yeah. And so you drop it in the raffle, and we'll have you drawing throughout the morning and near the end of the day. So we'll be talking to Becky, and Becky will be drawing those names, and we have some pretty cool prices, and some of those things that you can ask. If you want to visit during the break, we'll have a break. In addition, we will give you a heads up before we do the drawing so you can make sure you have your stuff in there. So the other chance that I have that I really, really enjoy every year is to be able to let everybody recognize their school and represent the school that they're from. So when you hear me call your name, make sure you are the loudest group in the room. It does not matter if you are a small group. So, all right. So, I'm going to start on this list, and I'm not going to pick either one of my alma maters, so I don't get accused of, favoritism. So, but Kansas Wesleyan.
Yeah, that's us.
You thought I was going to miss me, didn't you?
She thought she missed it. I know. Yay.
Okay, so then we have Kansas University.
Woo!
I made some faces. I think that was very loud and impressive. My mic is still a little bit better than last night. So then I have to do the shout out to Kansas State University. Okay, Pittsburgh State Gorillas. Okay, and Fort Hays State University. Newman University. Do we have Newman? Okay, call it? Okay. Ooh, taper. Okay, got that too. All right. So next we've got, I know where Bethel is. I see Bethel. Be good. Okay, so we have Bethel. And then, last but not least, where we're hosted at Washington University. There we go. Thank you. So, again, this is your chance to have your shout out and be recognized, and we're really excited to have all of you. I just want to take a minute to be able, because we're going to have a little video and talk about how important the Legislative Day, Advocacy Day is. And my plug again is, if you are not yet in your education to figure out why it is so critically important to learn how to advocate and do macro practice, if you are working with your clients and you hit a wall, and you hit another wall, or you hit a law, and you hit a rule or a policy in the state, and you go, why is it this way? Today we're going to teach you why it doesn't have to be that way. How to advocate for your clients, how to be passionate for them, to make systematic change, because the things that NASW and the NASW policies stand for are currently, one by one, really struggling in our state. And it's important to understand how to get your message across and speak your message in an efficient and smart, bulleted way, but in a passionate way that I know you all feel about your clients. Because whenever I hear someone say, Dr. Riplis, I don't know how to do policy work, but then they'll turn around and tell me about this case that they had where they couldn't get access to their client services, that's what our legislators need to hear. They need to hear the story, and that you can walk and hold that space with them side by side so they know what your clients are experiencing, and we advocate and teach our clients how to advocate for themselves. So that's what today's about, and it's really exciting. When you take pictures today, make sure you hashtag Social Work Advocacy Day, hashtag Kansas Legislature, and if you have any questions, find me, find one of the helpers out there running around, and we'll help you out. And this is a great video that we made. This is some videos with some people from the past years.
I'm a master's level social worker.
So you just heard me mention learning how to tell your client stories and tell your stories, and I think I see Melinda Lewis over there who's going to be telling you exactly how to do that.
Hi, good morning. And I feel like you already set everybody up today, right? For understanding why we're here. Because of those walls you encounter in maze. The walls you encounter in trying to eliminate the barriers that your clients experience and get to the outcomes that they're seeking and that you want to help facilitate for them. So today is an opportunity for you, whether you come every week, and so this is just your Wednesday in the state capitol, or it's the first time you've ever even gotten close enough to the capitol to contemplate what it's going to feel like for you to be in those halls and speaking your truth to those in that position of power. This is an opportunity for you to be in solidarity with your social work colleagues in doing this work and to live our code of ethics, not only section 6, which reminds us that we have an obligation not just to our clients and our agencies, but to the entire society, but all throughout the code, which speaks to our values of social justice and of service and the dignity and worth of people. Living that code requires doing advocacy with those we serve. And today is your opportunity to do that as a social worker in this community. So I'm excited to get to talk with you about some tips and strategies that can help you approach that work, and a tool that you can use to tell the story of social work and what your social work looks like with elected officials, and also get to introduce you to a social worker, a former student of mine from whom I learn every day, who's doing courageous and valuable advocacy, and two of my friends and allies and our colleagues, legislators whose vision of social work practice took them to run for elected office and who now serve us and you and the state of Kansas in the legislature, to get to introduce you to those folks. I want to start, though, first with what many of you may have already known or at least come face to face with over the past couple of weeks, which is that doing social work advocacy in probably anywhere, but certainly in the state of Kansas right now, often means having to deal with the reactions that those who don't share our values have to the people that we serve, the stories that we tell, and the changes that we are pushing for on their and our behalf. I don't want to, and I thought about this the whole commute, which took me longer than normal because of the fog, so I had a lot of time to reflect on it from Kansas City. I don't want to send the message that, you know what, doing advocacy is really scary and you're right, so it's probably a bit much for you. I don't believe that, and I have not witnessed that. But I also don't want to send the message that, you know what, all you need is your social work values and a really good elevator speech, and then it's going to be okay, whatever happens in the Capitol, because I know that that's not how it's going to feel for folks sometimes. And some of you may have been in the Capitol last week when trans rights advocates were removed from a committee and disrespected in the halls of the legislature. I've been removed from a committee, not that exact one, but some of the same players were involved. And I know how it feels to be pushed to the sideline and silenced in the place where the people work for us and are supposed to serve the public good. So I think that I would do you a disservice, which would hurt my feelings and I would feel bad about it, but more importantly, do a disservice to the clients on whose behalf you intend to advocate if I told you anything but the truth, which is, it is going to be hard. It is going to sometimes be scary. You will have really exciting and rewarding and energizing conversations in the legislature, including on top issues. Some of my absolutely most joy-filled days as a social worker in decades now are the times when, you know what, it was hard, but it was harder for the folks who were on the other side of the issue, and you know what, that feels really good. So there is joy and there is victory and there is social justice in this work, and also the days don't all feel like that. So as I talk about what can set you up for successful advocacy and some of the strategies that can strengthen your spine and embolden your spirit and make sure your every step, I want you to know that I have eyes wide open about what that looks like and feels like this year on these issues in this place. And I'm so glad you're in this work too, because those really tough conversations are going to be less tough when we are in alliance with each other. So if you have thought about advocacy basically every day since you decided to become a social worker, or maybe even before you decided to become a social worker, or if it's on your mind really mainly just today because it's Social Work Advocacy Day, my message for you, for all of us, is that this is our work together. Social work advocacy is what social work is. It is opening the door so that more of the voices that need to be a part of that conversation are there. And it is sharing evidence on which we should be basing public policy. It's working to change systems so that they work better for the people we serve. That's what social work is. That's why you're here. As Tanya shared, that's what's going to break down the walls that you bump up into every time you're trying to find a way to connect a social worker, to connect your clients to a service that they need, or get an agency rule to work the way it should work, and not some way it just has worked for a while and kind of limped along. That's social work, and I believe that you all see that as not just the work of macro social workers, or those social workers, or social workers with that kind of job title, or who work at that kind of organization, but our shared work as social workers. So what we hope to do today is help you get from that committed vision to a real kind of plan, and to provide some ideas for how you might go about that work. So Becky, I wanted to share some tips, kind of some ideas for how you can approach this advocacy. Oh yeah, I remember. I had it all come in together because since Becky's got it advanced at each different slide, that's a lot of beckoning advanced at Nancy there. At Becky, excuse me, at beckoning at Becky to try to advance it. So that's why I put it all up there at once. So this is not everything you need to know about doing legislative advocacy, nor is legislative advocacy the only kind of advocacy that social workers can, should, and do practice. It's a starting point, or if you are already in policy classes or practicum placements or mentored relationships where you're learning about advocacy, hopefully it's some other ways to think about that learning and things to add, kind of tools to add to your toolbox. And certainly if folks want to talk more about advocacy around a particular issue that you're working on or what you can do to connect what you're learning and the conversations that you're having to that ongoing work, I can tell you in complete honesty, there's literally nothing that makes me happier than a social work student saying, can you help me with this testimony, or I have to get ready for this interview with a reporter, or I'm going to have a meeting with my legislator, could you help me prepare for that? And I'm glad to see some faces that I know I've had those conversations with before and who are continuing on their advocacy journeys as well. So please let me know if this sparks your resolve to think about how advocacy can fit into your social work as a part of your professional identity and your ongoing professional practice. So first, communicate with your policymakers first. They work for you, they really do. And the really unfortunate and entirely out of line experiences that some advocates had last week notwithstanding, for the most part, your own legislator will greet you with at least some cordiality, even if they may not agree with you or ever come to see the issue the way you do. But we begin with our policymakers, even if we think they're probably not going to agree with us, and this has been something that I have learned the hard way, even when I already know they are going to vote the exact way a social worker would vote, because I don't want to let them off the hook just because they're going to check the mark in the right way, because it's really important that we get our choir to sing as loudly as we need them to sing and come in onto just the way every time we need them to. You need to convey a succinct and factual case, remembering that your stories are just as much data as anything that you can find in a peer-reviewed journal. That lived experience is truth, and we need to ensure that our messages encompass it as well. You need to make a specific ask so that you know where people stand. And this is crucially important because if you ask for what you really want, even if the answer is no, you still got something valuable out of that exchange because you just learned something, and you can then plan for your future strategies with that intelligence in mind. You're going to prioritize ongoing relationships. So if you thought today was like check advocacy off of your to-do list, sorry, it's not. But if it takes a little bit of the pressure off you to know that this is just a step in an ongoing relationship, then that's the truth, and you're welcome. You need to equip yourself with intelligence so that you know everything about the people with whom you're advocating as you can, and we'll have an opportunity for you to glean some of that intelligence talking with legislators today, and do everything you can to dial down the stress of it by making sure that you can navigate this space. I see that I've got to start wrapping up the time. I was told 15, and I think I'm at 9, but that's okay. So Becky, can you go ahead to the elevator speech and put this up so that folks can at least see what this looks like? Because, and this can hopefully be made available to folks if it isn't already. I don't have the packet of materials you got, so I'm not 100% sure if you do have it. But what this is a tool, just like Tanya talked, to help you know how you can get from your passion and all of the knowledge and wisdom that you have around this issue to a real case that you can make and be able to share with policymakers when you're talking. This thing just doesn't always like me. And I don't think it's someone cutting it out on purpose, which has happened to me before, but not in the legislature. So I have an example that I can talk to you around this to show you what this elevator speech looks like. And if I've got time, I'll do that really fast. Okay, great. So the elevator speech is not the world's perfect answer to doing policy, but I'll tell you the truth, that when you're trying to muster up the courage to walk up to a legislator who you think might be not all that excited to hear from you, knowing exactly what you're going to say and being able to get that out, even if they're going to hope the door shuts on you, is really helpful. And when you are effective enough in that elevator speech, this has happened to me too, sometimes you can hold the door open, they hold the door open and say, tell me more about that. And that's the perfect experience for you to then get to really build on that initial relationship. So an elevator speech conveys, it's a framework, it's a tool for being able to communicate what we should do, what that would look like, and what that could do to solve the problem that you care about. So my research for the past decade and a half or so has been around racial wealth inequality and using policy interventions at the local, state, and federal government level to close racial wealth gaps and to then improve outcomes for children and families. So an elevator speech that I have used around that work in not only the Kansas legislature, but in states around the country could go something like this. We should open children's savings accounts for every Kansas child and capitalize them with $500 in education savings held in the child's name so that we can give a low-income child a three times greater likelihood to go to college, 4 times greater likelihood to graduate college than if they hadn't had that $500 starter account. We can't afford to make that initial investment for Kansas kids. We can't afford to pass up that opportunity. That's the kind of thing that people get curious about. They want to know, how does that work? $500, that doesn't even buy books. How is it that that kind of an investment can be demonstrated in research to show those kinds of returns? And let me tell you more, right? That's the opportunity then to share more about what that looks like and what it would take to get that kind of an intervention in Kansas. So I would be absolutely thrilled to help anybody develop an elevator speech to use today, next week, next session for your work. Again, not because I think once you get the right elevator speech, then they're just gonna all say, oh, glad you came, what can I do for you? Here, sign the check. But because I do think that having those kinds of tools at your disposal can help you to feel ready to do this work, and the more confident and comfortable you feel in what is, news notwithstanding, your house in Kansas, the better you are going to be able to succeed in that place. So Becky, if you can advance one more time, this is my parting, one back. Because what I want people to remember is this. I know that it feels scary. And I will be absolutely I'll eat something here if you say it's not true. I really feel confident that you do scary stuff all the time. And this is not different. I mean, it's different scary, it's not scarier. So what I remind students and social workers all the time is, yes, it can be scary to step into advocacy spaces. So is sharing difficult news with a client or catalyzing a conversation about how someone's going to make a really challenging life change, or presenting to your agency board of directors, or asking your supervisor for something they don't totally want to do, or testifying in court. So you do scary, hard things because you're a social worker, and while the first time you take on each one of those challenges is probably really daunting, the 5th, the 6th, the 8th, the 25th time, not nearly so much. So I hope that you see today as your practice for taking on this work so that it becomes just as comfortable and confident a space for you as the other places that you are. So now we get to hear from, and you get to meet Two social workers who decided, yeah, I'm frustrated, yeah, I'm mad, yes, we're hitting brick walls all the time, and you know what I want to do about that is advocate, yes, but also I want to change who's sitting in some of the seats. And I know that I have something important to bring to the legislature as a social worker. I would encourage you to get some practice using the kflegislature.org website to gather some intelligence on elected officials that you're going to need to do your own advocacy as well, to learn about Representative Heather Meyer and Representative Susan Ruiz. Heather has served District 29 since 2021, and Susan has represented District 23 since 2019. So thank you, representatives, for your service, and thank you for sharing with the social work students and social workers gathered for Advocacy Day today. I would love for you to talk a little bit in your words about what compelled you to run for office, just kind of describing how you went from being a social worker, seeing those brick walls, to somebody who wanted to mount your own campaigns. And let the folks get to know you a bit that way.
Hi, Representative Heather Meyer here. Great to see everyone here today. I was actually here not that long ago when I was a BSW student, and I got to learn a lot from everyone here, so thanks for being here today. Basically, what got me into it is I was tired of running into walls all the time and trying to find ways to work within the system with my clients and never being able to really get through. And then looking at what was happening in the state and seeing how everything was, the legislature that was coming out was hurting our LGBTQ community, our low-income folks, people of color, the homeless, in the state of Kansas. And I just frankly got pissed off and said, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to change some things. So that's how I wound up here, and I encourage you all to do the same.
Thanks, Heather. Susan, what's your path to advocacy to elected office?
Hi, hello, big shout out to everybody here, and thanks for being here. I learned how to advocate and be civically minded since I was probably around 6 or 7 years old. It's always with my dad. He was an immigrant from Mexico, and he was very, very instrumental in making sure that all of us kids understood the importance of exercising our civil rights and being civically minded and voting. Voting is a big deal for him. I've helped work on campaigns since I was probably in my 20s, and I was living in Texas and then came to Kansas, did the same thing here. And then in 2016, it was devastating for our country. We got elected our president. That is, it's a joke. I didn't like what I heard from him, especially saying people from Mexico were coming and they were rapists and so forth and so forth. And so, by the way, he's still saying that kind of thing. I was, as like Heather, I was pissed off all the time. I mean, I was mad. I would go to work, and we would all be mad, just me and all my coworkers. And so the opportunity presented itself, and I was asked to run in this district that I now represent, and so I went for it, and I'm running again for my 4th term.
Thank you. Can you explain for folks, what are your kind of like top couple of priorities you're working on? Because I think probably that what we're angry about, still are angry about, is a lot of different things. But you also know that you've got to focus on some key priorities to really champion. Susan, if we start with you, what are your top things that you're trying to get done or to stop in the legislature this year?
Yeah, it's more like trying to stop some stuff. The one main issue that I've been working on, and together with Becky Bass, is to pass the social compact. And we were able to pass it out of the House. It currently sits in the Senate, and Becky's been doing heroic efforts trying to get that passed through the Senate, so we're hoping it'll get passed through the Senate. Once it passes through the Senate, then it'll go to the governor for her to sign. So that's been my number one focus. Besides that, it has been, you know, continue to have access to reproductive rights. It is something that the legislature, others in the legislature, continue to attack. And really, it's anything that has to do with access to services, to resources. Any attacks to those kinds of things are things that are very much a priority. Being that I'm also in the LGBTQ community, that is something that I'm always having to advocate for. And I'm a Latina, so we're always looking at any kind of bills that would really, in some way or another, discriminate against people of color.
Thanks, Susan. Heather, probably yes, but what have you carved out as particular priorities for you this year?
Yeah, so definitely on board with everything that Susan's talking about. We work pretty closely on a lot of those issues, but I also serve as ranking on this new committee that's as bad as it sounds, called Welfare Reform. And the committee was designed basically to completely dismantle our safety net in the state of Kansas. So as ranking minority member, I worked really hard to push back on policies that would hurt folks across the state. So I've been doing a lot of work around food insecurity and maintaining our SNAP benefits, and trying to find a way to help folks who are experiencing homelessness in the state. It's been a real uphill battle. I don't know if you all have ever caught me on that committee, but I get real spicy sometimes. And because I think the challenges, and I want to kind of talk about this, one of the things that I really focus on is trying to bring facts and data to the conversation to push back against stereotypes. And that's one of the things that I think is the most difficult part, no matter what committee we're on or what bill we're looking at. There are a lot of folks out there, policy differences are one thing, but not working from a base of, facts, data, and evidence-based practices is a whole nother animal. And so most of my focus has been on that, and I'm going to continue doing that as well. But we thankfully had some luck making sure that a real terrible bill that would have banned our ability to receive summer EBT for children who get free and reduced lunches. I worked with a lot of advocates in our community to push back so hard on that we didn't even hear the bill. So that was a big accomplishment because the chair really wanted that bill, so did House leadership, and we made it so bad for them and so impossible. With a lot of the work from you all here today too, sending in testimony and emails, that we are not even going to hear that bill. And so this year, we will be able to, give children across the state SNAP benefits in the summer.
Yeah. And I would say, Heather, that is a bill that I got responses not only from you, which was like, thanks, Heather, but also from legislators on the committee who were from both political parties who were also convinced by the data about the return on investment of SNAP dollars coming in, what that means for children's learning. It's a bright spot in my this legislative session too, not only that the bill is not advancing, but that was not just a partisan response. There were people who were outraged. Was it the word that one of the people who responded to me said, "I'm outraged," and I thought, me too, and not even a social worker. So what advice would you have? What do you want to see from social workers when they come to lobby you and come lobby your colleagues? What do you want to see from them in their legislative advocacy?
So I just love hearing from all of you all the time. I'm also in grad school at KU too. So yeah, it's wild. But I love
Almost done.
Almost done. But I love hearing from my fellow social work colleagues on bills that are important to you. And I know that it can be know that you can reach out to us, either your legislator or us in general. Well, I'm speaking for Susan, but I'm sure she wouldn't mind. Just to say, hey, what's going on? What do I need to know about? And be genuine, and when you're sending those emails and submitting that testimony, and don't be afraid to come out here. You know, one of my interns, I have 2 interns this year, and one of the biggest things that she said to me was, and she's only 19, she said, I was always so afraid to come out here and provide testimony and work with legislators, but y'all are just regular people, and those committee meetings are so much less formal than I thought they were gonna be. I mean, because really, we just want, that's your opportunity to come out and really speak your mind and show us what you're passionate about. So I would love to see more of my fellow social workers out there in front of us every single day saying, this is who we're here to fight for, this is why, here's the reasons why you need to pay attention to us, because we are a force to be reckoned with. And we are out here seeing people every day on the ground level, and legislators need to hear that from you.
Thanks, Ellen. Susan, anything else that folks should take as wisdom and advice in their advocacy?
Yeah, everything that Heather said, ditto, for sure. It's also, you know, you can have the opportunity to spend a day with us and just hang out with us and go to committees with us and stuff. It won't be the most exciting day that you've ever had, but you will kind of see what it takes to be in the legislature and to know, you know, we call it being in the factory where the sausage is made. And so if you knew what all the stuff that goes into a sausage, you'd be like, oh my God, you know. But getting an inside view is actually very helpful, because then you'll kind of see how you can approach other legislators. And Heather and I are very open. And I don't care where you're from, we're in Texas, we're in San Francisco, or Texas, doesn't matter. You can ask to come and have a day, you know, it's being a legislator for the day and hang out with us. And you know, and ask you to just pepper us with questions all day long. And you can get an inside view of what it's like to be in the Capitol. It is your house, you know. The house is your house, so you're welcome to come to the house. I know you'll be there today. But yeah, you know, you're welcome to call us, send me an email, whatever, and say, hey, I want to spend the day with you. So it'll be good. It'll be fun.
Thank you so much. Anything else that either of you want to share?
I just wanted to say, we need more social workers running at every level of government. And I know it sounds scary, and I know some people might be like, oh, I don't know, my background's kind of weird, like, you know, what if they come out with something and I've said something or done something in the past. I guarantee you, well, I can't 100% guarantee, but I know for a fact that that is something that shouldn't hold you back. I had a real wild growing up. I came out of poverty, and I had a lot of different, you know, traumatic experiences and things that just don't really normally fit what you would think a legislator or a congressperson or a city council person or anything is. But the thing is that we need people from every background, every experience, out in every position fighting for us. So this is my ask for you all to consider running for any office that you feel like you should, all the way from precinct committee person, which is where you just serve the people right there in your neighborhood, all the way up to state legislature, Senate, and the filing deadline is June 1st of every year. And if you have any questions about that, you can certainly reach out to us, and we'd love to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's an example of why we need social workers. Yesterday, there was a bill on the floor that we were debating, and it was about allowing for-profit agencies to receive or ask for a grant for substance abuse services. And so there's money, there's opioid money, it's federal money. But right now, you have to be a not-for-profit to ask for that money. So there's an agency in Wichita that wants to be able to ask a grant for that. Nobody on the committee, nobody even in our own do you serve people with Medicaid? Because it's a for-profit, and they're gonna be receiving our tax dollars. If it's federal money, it's our tax dollars. And so I looked at Heather and I said, I wonder if they're going to, allow folks with Medicaid. And so you can get up and speak to a bill. And I went up there and I asked the question, and Representative Hoffman said, I don't know that, but I'll get back with you. Okay, we're not voting on it, we're gonna vote on the bill today. And sure enough, by the end of that hour that we were there, they were back to us. They had come back, they were talking to us about, yes, we do serve folks that have Medicaid. This is a good example of why we need more social workers, because we think of other things, because our world, our vision is so much bigger. That's a really good reason why we need more social workers.
Yeah, it's a powerful example. Thank you, Susan, and thank you for doing that work and answering these questions. Thank you both so much for being here with us this morning. Thank you. Now we get to hear from an advocate who is a social worker too, and whose policy practice has not taken them yet to elected office, but to use their story and their own journey to form powerful alliances with other survivors of child sexual abuse to push for changes in the policies that govern how our society responds to that. So, Lisa. Yeah, that would be great. Let that mic go. Okay. So, what I'm interested in is you just telling a little bit the story of your advocacy on this issue for the past few years. We probably can't get into all of the twists and turns it has taken, although that is those are powerful parts of the story, but to at least give kind of the arc for folks. What I'm hoping for here is that they not only gain, which I know they will, even more respect for you and your fellow survivors than they have to start with, but also some of their own resolve, so that when they hit the setbacks that they will, that we all do in our advocacy, that leads not to a feeling of despair, but a resolve that, oh, this is the stuff that Lisa went through, and I can persevere just as she and her allies have. So tell us what this has looked like for you the past few years.
So this journey started 5 years ago when I saw a Facebook post by Senator. Still a little closer to the mic. Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it started 5 years ago when I saw a Facebook post by Senator Wilshire who said, "Hey, I'm going to be doing some legislative work on child sexual abuse, and I'd love for survivors to be part of that." And I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. Because before that, the first time I ever talked in public was at a master's of social work class, where I made everybody feel really uncomfortable. And I thought, maybe that's not a topic for public. But I was like, okay, let's do this. So it started. And at first in 2019, we started, I got by myself. We had a flyer. We still use it today. I made a real colorful flyer. It's in bite-sized pieces. It's a complicated issue, but I had to really get it down because they look at this like in 30 seconds. On the back is more resources, but I keep the front really simple. And I just walked around, made appointments, talked to judiciary committees, both Senate and House, and just continue those conversations. That year, our bill didn't go anywhere. They were worried about sitting presidents, and it got stuck in the joint committee. But really what was happening that year is that they all said, they were very nice to me. They said, thanks for coming, thanks for sharing your story. They asked me no questions. So the work was really done, I felt like. It was really just that stepping, just introducing the topic a little bit to them so they feel comfortable. In 21, we're just weird years with the pandemic. There's limited opportunities for us to even go up there. So, but in 22, got some more survivors to join us. We had a new bill. We got some other survivors. We had Kim Bergman, Sharon Hufford, Sarah Jones, who were involved in a lawsuit with USA Gymnastics. And it just brought more press to us. We also created a team of us survivors workers, we worked on strategy, consistent messaging, and then we created a bipartisan group of legislators that sponsored our bill. And then the KBR report on clergy abuse came out, so we had this momentum. So we wrote in that on 2023. That's when we put in a new bill. This is like the third or fourth bill we put in. And we put it in Senate Ways and Means. And so it was an exempt bill, which means most bills will die in February. This one would live on through the whole session. Senator Warren didn't know that at first. He tried to wait us out. We kept going. The other thing we did is that we tabled weekly. We were up there, not every day, but every week. And when you guys go in, you'll see the lobby. That's where we were. We greeted every legislator that walked in the morning. They got used to seeing us. And then we met with leadership. Senator Masterson, Senator Wilborn. And then we worked with Jeff Patton, who was the chair of the Judiciary Committee of the House. He was very supportive. He really helped us with strategy. He knew more ins and outs than we did. So we were playing this game with the Senate Judiciary Committee. They kept just putting it off and putting it off, putting it off. Like I said, they thought our bill was going to die, but it did not. So, but we needed to go through the Senate first, which that's a long story. But eventually, Senator Warren rewrote the bill. There was a lot of negotiating with leadership. And so we, of course, we asked for eliminating the statute of limitations. We had to negotiate. And so at the end of that, we actually had vote on the full House floor, unanimous on the House and the Senate floor, which was very exciting. And Kelly signed it into law last May, so as of July 1st this year, or 2023 rather, we have eliminated the statute of limitations on child sexual abuse, the criminal statute of limitations. And as for civil, we're still working on that. We got extended from age 21 to age 31, but that still doesn't match age of disclosure at 52. So we still have work to do. But we're really proud of what we did. And this year we continued tabling. We tried to extend that civil, but it's a really interesting year up there, and we weren't making any progress this year. Leadership told us we should be satisfied with 31, and I think that should be it. But of course we're not, so we'll be back next year.
Thank you, Lisa, for doing this work and for sharing some of the story. I can hear several key lessons you learned, right? So finding not only a legislative champion, which you did in City Culture, but also then where you can use other legislators as allies to advise you on a particular piece of strategy, to plant yourselves in some kind of continued presence, that perseverance. I've been told a couple of times by policymakers who did not agree with me, I don't think you're going to go away, are you? And if the answer to that can be said confidently, no, then they know that they're going to have to deal with it at some point. And I also hear you talk about compromise, that you and your allies decided at some point, okay, that's not what we really want, but it's something that we can live with as a starting point. I think those are key lessons for us to all hold on to. And knowing you as I do, I know that you didn't have all of those lessons in mind when you saw that Facebook post and said, yes, it's me. So that to me is a lesson too, that even if you don't know everything you're going to need to know to get to victory, you can still get started and learn along the way. Can you talk to me about how you are planning for these next steps? Because now I think you have this, you co-founded a grassroots group. This is not Lisa's paid job. This is something that is her passion and a part of her identity as a social worker and as a survivor, but not drawing a paycheck for this. So can you talk about how you have built an actual group, a structure, and what comes next for you in doing this?
Right, so as we just kind of started, there was a quarter before of us, and we had lots of Zoom meetings, and we just what we wanted to do. So we decided we were going to create this group, and we have about 60 survivors across Kansas, and about 10 are very, very active. Like I said, we decided to create a group, so we picked out colors. We have lime green, which stands for child sexual abuse, and teal, which is for sexual assault. And those two colors together, that's our brand. Whenever they saw that colors on something, Big notes from us. You know, we went from that to this. We are very, we try to be really concise. Still has our color, so the logo, it has our QR code. So legislators can know exactly what we stand for, and they can look at it and get it in a couple seconds. Everything we did was, we kept emailing each other. We emailed the whole group to keep updated. We invited survivors to come up and join us. And since we were always up there, it's like, this is the day we're up here, come and join us. And just continue building those relationships. What we're doing next is that we're going to hopefully become a regular, an official C4. I don't think we can be C3, we're going to lobby too much. But and pursue some funding, because it isn't mine. I don't get paid for this work, and I probably spend, I'm sure I spend many hours. And there's other legislation we want to pursue. And we're just starting to hear about things that are coming down the pike that we're like, I can't believe that doesn't have regulation on it. Some really interesting things. We want to provide, there's no advocacy group in Kansas for child sexual abuse. There's child advocacy centers to take care of forensic interviews, but to provide policy and legislative support. So we'd like to be that organization. And just continuing maybe having support for survivors throughout the state and continuing to educate and create safe spaces. We talked to Columbus clubs, Rotary clubs, and I spoke to the league on Saturday, the voters. Like I said, it's a topic still it's kind of not talked about. So we want to create spaces it's okay to talk about. A group I follow in the UK, and one of their slogans is, child sexual abuse is a crime, talking about it is not. And I just kind of look at it, I do that.
No, I mean, this is one of the things I see and have talked with you about is that your group, because you at the heart of it are a social worker, good at relationships. That means not only the relationships forged with policymakers and trying to influence them, but also among your allies, among other survivors. And I think that has made it a space for healing and support and help to sustain the advocacy, because it's not just about pushing against policymakers, but also really drawing strength from each other. Are there any lessons that any advice you would share with the social workers and social work students from this work about how you approach it as a social worker and how you hope they will as well?
Right. Probably one of the lessons we learned is don't count anybody out. Don't assume somebody can't be your ally. On this issue, I'm working with some legislators that I probably disagree with them 90% of the time. So when I meet with them in the back of my head, because I follow all this stuff, I know what they're doing in other issues. I have to keep my focus here because I want them to meet with me and not get defensive. So it's hard, it's exhausting sometimes to pull all that in. So we keep focused on, I guess one part, others is try to stay positive, we try to stay polite. We're assertive and direct, but there's a balancing act right there. It's like I said, I'm tired when I get home, I'm exhausted from all that. They're trying to research both sides of the issue. There were, so you could be ahead of, if people have concerns or have an idea, like someone one of concern of a catch hearing, and we had just researched a little bit on was false accusations. So we were really worried, like, what if someone makes a false accusation? So we looked it up. It's a good question. We don't want to cause that. So it was 5%. In New York, throughout Arkansas, that consistently those numbers, so we brought that back. Again, establishing a relationship with those legislators that, like, you have a concern, I need to hear you. Part of my brain was like, nobody does that. But it's not what I said out loud, you know. So when I brought it back and shared it with them, that made them feel better.
So you're able to then provide as a service, really, education about the issue. You have evidence, you have wisdom, knowledge about how programs are working and not working, about what needs really look like, and where you enter that information into your policy-making process. You make policy better for everyone, and you make policymakers' jobs more effective.
And probably just staying on top of that message. We decided early on we had a messaging that we stuck with. We made kind of our elevator speech kind of thing, where I can get it out in 1 minute. And then I know the next section. But all of us have the same, they see all of us on our Facebook, on our materials. It's always bring it back to keeping kids safe. That's the bottom line. And this is a bill for the future. It's digital evidence isn't going anywhere. Evidence from the 70s, yeah, that's really hard. But evidence from the 90s and the early 2000s, it's there. And we know that. We have survivors, that's how their user got caught. So we want to have those statute of limitations as long as possible so we can keep kids safe. We keep coming back to that over and over again. It was fun later on, educating legislators, and then I remember I was in the hall talking, and Senator Masterson was down there talking, and I could hear him talking about us, and he was saying our message, and I was like, yes, sure, that's awesome. It was like, he got it, and he was somebody who was not there at the beginning. It took a long time.
And he's carrying that message out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing that story, and again, for doing that work, for being there when they come off of the elevator side. I just know that some of them are like, ah, geez, here they are again. But exactly, here is this issue again, because that's where social workers come to. Thank you.
Introduction there. Okay, so before we take a break, you would love to meet Felicia in person because she's very high energy. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us taking a video. That gives you a little bit of an idea of why I like not being alone. With NASW, we have lots of opportunities for joining and networking with people. There are people in this room that I never would have met if I had not gotten involved in NASW. Besides teaching, I do private practice, and I have more than one time picked up the phone, called people, talked to them about doing private practice work and questions. And so sometimes when you are done, it's hard to imagine you're not going to quote a group of people with you. This is your group of people that you can reach out, ask questions, and kind of form a group of support. And when you're having those ethical dilemmas, you have people you can talk to and reach out to. So I think Becky will start a video, or do you want me to say? Thank you. So the other part with the t-shirt. So there's t-shirts that if you sign up today that you get a free t-shirt. The other thing is that you get cords that you can wear at graduation. They're teal. I should have had one in my hand to show you because they're really pretty. And if you're anything like the students that we teach here, there, Lavina has some. Ooh, there we go, more. There you go. They're really pretty. And if you're anything like the students we have at Washburn, they want to know how much bling they can get that they can wear at graduation. It's always like, this is some bling that you can wear at graduation. Everybody, I see other people from other schools laughing. Get the stuff, show up, be proud. You have the right to brag about that. So we've got the shirts. And then do not forget, again, during the break, to visit the sponsors and vendors so you can enter into the raffle and get more free stuff. So we like free stuff. Anything else I'm missing on the announcements? There we go. Go to the t-shirt table to get your prize. Caitlin Dare. Look at Matt Vanell, Allen. And now Allen. And Kelsey Strickland. Matthew O'Bull Gary. And Cole Gary. All right. Yeah, we'll have some more at the end. And in the meantime, go to the t-shirt table to get your prize.
Wow, what a great group of social workers from all across the state. Talk social work. So we are excited today to have the Alliance for a Healthy Kansas. My name is Becky House. I'm the executive director of Kansas chapter. So the timing was perfect today with the Medicaid expansion rally. We hope everyone goes into the Capitol. It starts at 12:30. If you don't get there at 12:30, that's fine. Get there when you can. But Medicaid expansion is something that we as social workers have advocated for years. It is time. We are
are tired. We won it this year. So we have Ellen and Marissa, who are from the Alliance, going to help you give some talking points when you meet with your legislators or email them or call them to provide some background to the critical needs of Brown Medicaid expansion.
Thank you so much, Becky. This is great. We work with a lot of social workers in the advocacy community, and we're really, really happy that you're here in Topeka today. So you can go to the rally if you choose to, and I hope you do. But it's also just really good to see you and help you understand a little bit about the challenge that we're facing because we have not expanded eligibility for our Medicaid program. So I want to just give some background really quickly. The Alliance for a Healthy Kansas is a nonpartisan advocacy group. We have been around since 2016. Really, when we talk about being nonpartisan, it just means that we don't align with one or the other of the political parties, any of the political parties, and we can't be involved in election campaigns, but we are able to lobby, and we're definitely able to do education and grassroots mobilizing. And so I see all of you as partners in that work, and really glad to have you here. One of the things that we have as an organization, we have been facilitating and growing a coalition of organizations all across the state of Kansas who care about this issue for a huge range of reasons. So the 135 plus organizations in our coalition probably couldn't agree on any other issue except for this, because they come from so many different perspectives. But I think that really speaks to why this is so important for us to move forward with in Kansas, because it just makes sense and helps so many challenges that we're facing as a state. So if you would advance the slide, please. I want to make sure that you understand what we're talking about before we get too deep into this. Medicaid expansion is an opportunity for states to expand eligibility for their Medicaid programs. It was first provided by the Affordable Care Act, and in the Affordable Care Act, they had envisioned this umbrella that fully covered the population of people across the country, from the very lowest earners to people who earned 400% of the federal poverty level. On the red side that you see on the umbrella, that would be the lower end of the income range, and those people would be covered by the Medicaid program. And on the blue side, that would be people who earn at least 100% of the federal poverty level, and they would be covered by subsidies on the healthcare marketplace. So healthcare.gov, if you're familiar with that. So it was supposed to just be a blue and red umbrella. In Kansas, we have that white section in the middle because we have not opted into the expansion portion. Early on, there were lots and lots of challenges, legal challenges to the Affordable Care Act. And one of the only things that stuck was that the Supreme Court said that states had to individually opt in if they wanted to have this full umbrella. So Kansas and 9 other states are holding out on completely taking care of our people. The federal government pays 90% of the cost of the Medicaid population. A variety of savings and incentives would pay for the rest of that amount. This is not necessarily a financial reason that we are not doing it. It tends to be much more politically motivated, and it doesn't have to be this way. It wasn't that way in Indiana when Mike Pence was governor and they passed expansion. It wasn't that way when all of our neighbors surrounding us have passed expansion. We are down to a group of holdouts that really are in the deep south and Kansas with a few outliers. So in Kansas right now, how many of you think that if you are low income and you have a medical need, you will qualify for Medicaid? You can just raise your hand if you think that's the case. You guys are so savvy. Okay, you're right, of course, you work in this area. absolutely what they believe. If you have a need, if you're low income, and you're an adult, you qualify. That is not true in Kansas. In Kansas, if you're an adult, the rule is that you don't qualify for Medicaid, and then you have to meet one out of several exceptions in order for that to happen. One of the exceptions is if you are a parent caring for children under the age of 19 in your home, and then you can only make like 38% of the federal poverty level. So I'm just wanting to make sure that you understand that when people say, go get a job, you'll get insurance, a lot of the people, the majority, 69% of the people who are in this population already are working. Many of them are working multiple jobs, and we just have an issue with a coverage gap in Kansas that doesn't need to be there. Can you advance the slide, please? Okay, so the need for expansion in 2024, these are those talking points that I hope you'll feel comfortable sharing. First of all, it would expand eligibility. It would fix eligibility limits that are way too low right now. That's what I just talked about. It would reduce healthcare costs for everyone, because if you have coverage in the first place, or if you don't have coverage and you go to the hospital and you're not able to pay that bill, a part of that is going to be spread out among all of the other people who seek care from that facility. So it helps everyone with prices. It protects Kansans from medical debt. If you have insurance, you don't incur that debt in the first place, and you have more resources for food and lodging and the other things that you need as a family. It preserves and strengthens rural health care. We have a huge problem with rural health care in Kansas. We've seen way too many. Over 8 rural hospitals close in the last 10 years. We also know that many hospitals are closing, shutting down services. So even though the hospital's still standing and still operating, they don't do all of the things that they have before, and that's because of the ability financially to attract and keep physicians and other medical staff and a range of other issues that could be improved with expansion. And it also helps to make us more economically competitive. Like I said, every single one of our neighbors has done this, and we haven't. So they are pulling providers across the border into Missouri and Oklahoma because they can pay more than we can here because they have lower uncompensated care. So if you could go ahead and advance the slide, please. Oh shoot, I forgot that this, you can just keep going until this page is completely full. So we have 2 bills that would create expansion if we could get them passed. The first one is House Bill 2556. It sits in the House Health and Human Services Committee, chaired by Brenda Landwehr. The second is Senate Bill 355. It sits in the Senate Committee on Public Health and Welfare, chaired by Beverly Gossage. We have not had, you can go ahead and advance. We have not had a bill, period, in the House of Representatives since 2017. So just let that sink in. Every single year, all of those 7 years, there have been Medicaid expansion bills that have been introduced, and the legislative leaders have not allowed there even to be a hearing on those bills. And in the Senate, it's been since 2020. So our big approach is through grassroots organizing, movement building, and making sure that everyone across the state that we can reach understands that this is something that could be fixed fairly easily at minimal expense to the state, and there's no reason for us to be holding out. We also have legislative advocacy, and there was a recent action alert on this hearing issue. They have said that there are going to be hearings. We haven't seen scheduled dates yet, so we think it's important to still keep that pressure on. But people across the state, and maybe some of you, and thank you very much if you were part of the group, reached out to their elected officials and asked them to hold a hearing, and it worked. So we really hope that you will have time to come by the rally today and lift your voices for this. It is a way not only to address the talking point issues, this is a social work issue and a provider issue as well, because when your organization has the resources that it needs, you're able to provide those services, and they're able to employ behavioral health providers and other providers who wrap those services around patients in need. So with that, I'm going to switch over to Marissa.
Thank you. If you could advance this slide as well. So the Story Week Project is work that I have done for the past 4 years or so. It is a branch of AHK that deals specifically with those in the coverage gap. You guys saw the umbrella of those individuals in white who make too much money to qualify for Medicaid, but don't make enough money to qualify for the subsidies on the marketplace. And its purpose is really to highlight their stories and their experiences of what it's like to not have access to health insurance in our state. What are things that they are having to do without, whether that's going to primary care doctors or incurring huge amounts of bills at the emergency room and other things like that. But really what we do is we use these stories as advocacy tools to help tell the need for expansion and why it's so important that we be advocating for this policy issue as well. And when it comes to stories as well, obviously we focus on those in the coverage gap, but